How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to go and attempt, what's it called, Pluck, the stuck truck, and I'm taking this, the heavy wrecker mod. I also end up using a P16, I'll give that a little go as well, but the main one I'm going to use is this. And somebody said the other day, I don't blame them, yeah, there's not a whole lot of gameplay on YouTube of people driving sensibly. I tend to drive like a maniac. There's two large reasons I drive like a maniac. One, because it's fun, and two, because if I drive all like slow and proper sort of thing, if I'm doing a mission, it can make the same mission go from a 15-minute video to a 40-minute video. And yeah, it kind of slows the pace down a lot really. So generally speaking, I kind of put my foot down a bit. But now, for by special request, I'm kind of as good as one can expect. I'm trying to drive properly. It won't last very long, but I tried, that's the important thing. And it is quite hard, that's what she said. Yeah, because, well, I'm in high, I've gone for high. This, with high range, because I can sort of dab the throttle and everything, you can kind of keep it as at a pretty manageable level. The high range gear in this isn't insane. If you're going pretty slow and then you boot it in high range, you kind of have a pretty mad burst of speed and it can get a little bit erratic. But once you're actually kind of going and you don't just have that initial dump of power, yeah, I'd say this is a pretty normal, real-life speed. I wouldn't say that's some serious rally spec going on. Oh yeah, I've not built this bridge yet. I'm on my, is it the second or the third playthrough? I think it might be my second playthrough. And yeah, I'm going to go and get the Derry Longhorn that's down that hill. I remember doing a video on it bloody ages ago. I tried various different trucks. The Navistar got pretty bloody close. Like, my original attempt at this, when I was just doing it for my own kind of, to complete my own gameplay, yeah, I used the Navistar and I was able to get to practically the top of the hill every time, but I just couldn't quite get the grip to get over the peak of the hill. And it was just one of those things where it was like, every time I let go of the winch to be able to drive forward, the truck would roll back and then I couldn't reach it, I'd have to reverse back down the hill, etc, etc. I also tried the Tiger, I think, back in the day, which did pretty bloody well. In the end, I think the Tatrim was one of the few that actually managed to get it up there, and even then, that took a good few attempts for it to go. It was probably about 3 attempts, and then one of them went right, and that's the one that ended up in the video. Yeah, it was definitely a bit hit and miss though, doable, but close. And that was kind of the situation with it, really. In the end, I did it, which a lot of other people did the same thing. I took the Cat 745C. Other trucks would probably work for doing this when you just sort of give up and do it this way in the end. Was yeah, drive down the hill, go in front of the Derry, winch it, and then tow it down the river, and then kind of, you just pop out a bit further down the river where the hill back to the road isn't as extreme. So yeah, like I say, today I was just curious when I was kind of sorting out unlocking White Valley the other day and that, just because I'd like to do some live streaming soon. Yeah, I found this Derry and I was like, oh, I'll do a mission on that soon. Wanted to know what this heavy wreck was like. Also was a bit curious about the P16. It could have been theory. Depending how these go, I thought I might bring quite a few other mods. But if I'm honest, I don't think a hell of a lot of mods are going to do this that successfully, unless they utilise things like a winch where I can just park at the top here and reach all the way down. But anyway, part of my trying to be realistic attempt. It's a good way to start off. By the way, with my wrecker, I've got it set up with the 2.5 ton, like 2,500 kilogram front bumper, which is keeping my nose weighted down. Yeah, stuck the anchors out. I assume in real life this is pretty much how they would rescue this. They're not going to reverse the truck down there with it, because it's just going to kind of be asking for a whole lot of trouble. They probably wouldn't retract the crane like this from again, there's a recovery company near me. They've kind of got just big holes at the back of the truck that have got like pulleys that go all 4 ways, and then there's obviously big winches that come out the back of there, so they'd probably just stick a winch on from the back. Yeah, I did the crane though. For some reason, even though I've clearly got enough reach, it wasn't showing me the winch points of this truck. So I reversed down there, just went near it. I don't really know how much this helps, but it seemed to do something for me. I just left this bit in. Once I stuck the diffs on, the heavy wrecker climbs itself back out of there with no issues. Yeah, so I'm going to stick the anchors back out and attempt it again. Like, I don't know what the crack is with that. Maybe I just had to actually go near enough to, I don't know, trigger something. But I finally got the winch points. I cut those bits out because there is about 9 million winch points. And yeah, this way, especially with the anchors out and everything, pretty easy. I could have also drove a little bit further forward. I assume I still would have been able to reach the Derry pretty comfortably by then. But yeah, I'd say this is getting on for a fairly realistic rescue, at least getting it up to the top of here anyway. Probably not a bad thing, I got the weighted bumper. And yeah, obviously I got the wrecker body, the sleeper cab, a few repair points and stuff behind the sleeper cab. I've also got the rotator axle thing on, which I'll be using shortly. And you can see I was cutting back and forth to, like, I did each thing a few times because I get glitches. You can see a P16 in the background, the goddamn horse of a vehicle with it as well by now. Yeah, pop the anchors down, started to drive forward. Definitely better with the diffs on, but once we stick them in. The tyres as well, I think this time I just went for the single, so the quasi muds, but the I believe they were studded ones. But yeah, all in all, pretty successful start, pretty happy with that one. So just backing up there, knocking it out of the way. Clicking a reset on the mission. It's quite nice that you can just reset the mission here. Makes things pretty handy. And it's still a little bit trollish. Some of these elements of the mission, sometimes it feels like the Derry gets a bit caught on something. I know there is the odd tree stump and that down there, but I don't believe every now and then when it was catching me, it was particularly that. It's just, I don't know, some kind of funny resistance to wanting to be towed up the hill sometimes. So yeah, next up the rotator axle thing, which I actually quite like this. Even though I admit, and other people have said the same, I do find it a little bit, not trollish, the actual thing itself is all good. Once you've hooked a vehicle on there, one way or another, it can pop off pretty easily. I've had times, you'll see now, this one goes pretty well. It hangs in there pretty well, but yeah, other times it's just like you go to drive forward and it just, the truck you're towing pops back off it. And someone was saying you could use the winch or the crane in conjunction with it, which I do agree, but then to a degree it sort of defies the point of spending the time getting this rotator axle out. You may as well just crane it. Yeah, for this one though, I'm trying to get the rotator axle kind of wedged between the two rear axles of the Derry. It probably would sort of lock its way between the mud flaps and the rear wheel, but I honestly don't think it would be very good if it did. Like, it'd probably work just for sitting there, but when I go to drive forward or something, it'd probably, yeah, not be too keen on it, just drop off. I went to go and use the winch points, but I know I'll have 9 million to scroll through, so... One thing I do like with this wrecker, and I don't think that's the case with all the base trucks, is even after you've extended your crane and all the rest of it, when you go to your winch points, it still includes your crane as a winch point. Like, you don't have to go through the crane menu to get the choice of like the end of your crane to use as a winch, which, yeah, I don't believe any of the base trucks do that. Because that's something I always thought would have been pretty nice. Obviously, with the end of your crane, you can kind of move that and create your own sort of winch point where you need it, but I'm pretty sure it's always been a bit fussy. Just keeping it in medium low for this one, didn't want to try and pop a wheelie or anything. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was tempted. To be honest, it's pretty close already, especially because now that rotator axle is literally like levering my wrecker from the back. Definitely handy at this point, having that weighted front bumper on. I think it would have probably tried to start wheeling, basically. And yeah, got it up the hill, the rotator axle thing. You can see it started falling off a little bit and getting a bit iffy, but it got it up to the top of the hill. I'd certainly count that as a pass. If I was going to be doing anything now, I'd sort of be readjusting it and probably just tow it back to the yard anyway. So at this point, I went and fetched the P16 because I already had this as a built mod that I've left in my game so far in this middle playthrough, just to see how the game fares when I kind of turn it on and load it up the next day and just keep this mod on and that. Just wanted to see if it had any bugs or glitches. Yeah, and I really like this P16. I've always liked the original truck anyway, and this JBE modded version is yeah, a very good version. I didn't realise as well, somebody said the other day about having a double front wheeled P16, and I thought they meant like someone had modded one with 2 lots of front axles. And yeah, when I was scrolling through my truck store earlier, I seen like you've got the single front wheel option of the P16 and the double front wheel option, so it's just, yeah, like you can have the dual rears, you can get that on the front as well. I get what they mean now. I was like, yeah, again, I thought it was a different mod. But when you download this mod, it just adds 2 trucks into your truck store and you can buy either one. They're both the same price, it's just, I believe the only difference is, yeah, when you flick through the various wheels, you can have dual versions of them on the front. As you can see now though, power-wise wasn't really an issue going all the way up to the hill. It was about the same place where back in the day my Navistar got stuck, and you could see like the middle axle of the P16 was just kind of jerking and jigging around, but it just wasn't, it didn't keep turning. Like, I would rather see wheel spin now than the wheel kind of half locking in and stuff. I ended up moving the crane round just to see. I knew it'd kind of make me do a wheelie a bit more, and I was wondering if that'd plant both rear axles pretty well and maybe help it start gripping. To be fair, it is doing more of a wheel spin now than a tired judder. But yeah, it wasn't happening, so of course it's time to send in the goddamn professional. And I was also, yeah, I think I've recovered the wrecker, changed a few little bits and bobs on it. I can't remember if at some point I put the like the big wide monster truck quasi things on, studded just instead of the singles. See, this is why you get yourself a loaf. Yeah, I wanted to use the loaf as like a little weight distribution loaf because, like I said, when I was testing the P16 it kept doing a wheelie, and now when you try and load stuff onto trucks like this it can be a bit awkward, and especially that I'm on a big hill, which is notoriously not good when you're trying to drop stuff and that with a crane. I mean, look at him, straight in there, like Tetris, but with loafs. He knows his job. And to be fair, Loaf certainly did his part, kept the front end of the P16 down. Again, I was hoping, kind of winching from the crane to the Derry, to plant both my rear axles into the floor, but using the weight distribution loaf to see if I can still keep the front axle digging in a bit. But then at this point it's back to the old problem again, where it's not really wheel spinning now, it's just if you look at particularly the middle rear axle, once I get to about like this point and take up all the tension on the winch, it just starts juddering again, like it's not feeding enough power in to actually keep making the motor up the hill. I tried to do a few different things. In the end, that's what I essentially did, was just like driving my way up the hill, releasing the winch and reattaching it when I was a little bit further up. And yeah, I mean, it didn't take long, it was only a couple of minutes, there was a glitch or two, so I just kind of edited through a bit anyway. But yeah, I was able to do it with the P16 on its own and everything, yeah, with the goddamn horse of a vehicle helping, but I suppose I wouldn't strictly, well, I was going to say I wouldn't strictly say it was real life, in the sense of, in real life you can't just disconnect a winch and then reattach it like a lasso as you're driving forward. That said, in real life, yeah, you could just drive forward. You'd probably have a long enough winch. Like, winches are pretty long in real life, they're obviously restricted more in this game for the most part, to have some level of difficulty to it, but yeah, in real life I reckon trucks would have a long enough winch to just send it all the way down the hill, and then the P16 would have dragged this thing up no problem. So next up I ended up sending this thing back down because, like I said, I was going to have a play around with the P16. I thought that would probably walk it, and then I was maybe going to go and get the other wrecker or one or two other mods. And then after the P16 was struggling a bit, I thought, right, I'll go and have another little play around with this thing. And yeah, similar issue, when you attach it to the crane, it kind of levers you, and yeah, do a big old wheelie. And that's part of the issue with this hill, as you start climbing up. If it's going to make a wheelie, yeah, the front end of your truck just starts swinging over into them trees. And I tipped. thankfully this thing is pretty nice and easy for tipping itself back over. Definitely gets high marks for that. It's rarely, if ever, been a hassle to tip back over this thing. But I was determined to see if this was a viable option. And if you have got mods and you've got this mission coming up, I mean, by all means, you can try all the base trucks, but yeah, to be honest, very few of the base trucks are going to be able to do it, and if they do, it's kind of like, yeah, you're almost winging it a little bit. Now, I personally don't really think this Wrecker is an OP mod. Like, there is trucks like this in real life. You go and look on YouTube at, like, Wrecker shows or whatever. There's well, like I said, there's a Wrecker that lives near me that's the English version of this, like a flat face rather than a long nose, but yeah, it's a completely custom one-off, like, pride of the fleet beast, and yeah, they exist, so why not why not own one? So I certainly think this is beyond, say, a stock Wrecker, but I don't think it's unrealistically insane or anything. Of course, in the end, had to get myself a weight distribution loaf. I was curious. It doesn't sit as well on the bonnet of this. I probably would be better off putting it lengthways and through the exhaust pipes. It sits in the middle of them pretty well, but obviously that wouldn't be right at the front. It did pretty well, and then I clipped it on a tree, and it went. Obviously I can't winch it on either because I'm using the winch to grab the Derry. And yeah, if you think it was going bad when the loaf was on, this is what happens when the loaf isn't on. This is exactly why you need yourself a weight distribution loaf. Oh shit. See, if I was there and that happened in real life, I think I would just quit. But I'm done. Bye. Have fun. You say, goddamn horse vehicle. He got his way out the trees, and he's back. This loaf, by the way, it's stock. I put the SnowRunner gearbox in, but I haven't got the high range. I've got the normal suspension, 30-inch muds. The stock engine, like the stock engine as well. I really need to get onto Tamir and get those upgrades, because it's still been putting in a pretty bloody good effort considering it's a stock loaf, but the full fat horse is definitely, yeah, that's the way you want to go. In fact, driving a full fat loaf can scientifically make you live longer, and I can basically prove it. Like, according to Einstein's theory of relativity, or special relativity, one of them, the closer you are to the speed of light, like, time is relative to the speed of light or something, so the closer you get to the speed of light, the slower time goes, relatively speaking. So for example, if you were travelling at like half the speed of light, if a year passes to you, it'd be like 2 years or something to people on Earth. And that is actually, like, legit. It was in an old film years ago where some guy has like a toddler younger brother, and when he comes back because he went off with some aliens, his little brother's like a 20-year-old adult, and it's in that film Interstellar when they go to some planet. They're there for like 2.5 hours, but it was like 40 years back on Earth or something. But yeah, basically, if you drive the loaf, you are getting closer to the speed of light, therefore you are living longer. So that's just, like, I don't know, reason number 69 probably to get yourself a goddamn horse or a vehicle. Yeah, for this one you can see it's kind of backup plan. I just wanted to try it there out of curiosity, see how well it went. And yeah, dragging the thing down the river, pretty bloody easy. And as you can see, just follow the river down. There's like a much easier slope to get up there. There's no like metal barrier or anything in the way. You can get back onto the road pretty easy. Job done. Yeah, so I sent it back to the garage, grabbed the rollback, because I was curious to see how well this would do. Again, pretty nice that you can just restart the mission from there. And again, I really do like the rollbacks in general, even on that truck, the Albatross thing. Someone said it, yeah, is it called the Z-Truss? I think I called it like the Actros or something. But anyway, the Albatross. Yeah, that had a rollback, which is pretty cool. There was still somebody saying, by the way, I'll just mention it quickly with that Albatross thing yesterday. I said it feels like it's being restricted or something, but it did feel worse on roads. Like, once I was off-roading, I didn't really notice it as much, which is why, like, at the start of the night, I was like, oh no. By the end of the night, I was kind of like, yeah, it's not a bad truck, actually. Once I was just messing around with it, it was alright. Somebody was saying, Thing Boy, that when they've, like, designed that truck, they might have done something like tried to slow the rear axles down or slow the front axle down or something. Basically, the axles might be trying to spin at a slightly different speed and it's just making it all not happy, and then something's dragging, like maybe one of the axles are trying to spin slower than another axle, and that probably explains why once I was in mud and stuff, the problem seemed to largely go away, because in mud at least it like isn't going to have that much trouble spinning two axles at a slightly different speed. When I'm on the tarmac roads, that's when it really will kind of notice it. So yeah, I don't know if he's correct, but I believe that sounds pretty, from just the feel I was getting from the truck, that kind of makes sense to me. So yeah, just that's all I wanted to say as well though, is once I was in mud, it felt like the issue was a lot more reduced, and it actually, in the end, because of that, it kind of did better than I expected in the mud, dragging that GMC out and all that. I mean, it got it up onto the rollback just fine, drove out of there, no issues. Given how iffy it was feeling on tarmac when it was towing nothing, I was kind of starting to worry. Yeah, anyway, got this beast on the rollback again, 9 million winch points later. For some reason, it won't let me pack the truck, but it's pretty cool. As I was saying, yeah, I like the rollbacks, and this is definitely my favourite one. It's the 3-slot rollback. And yeah, I mean, it fits a Derry on there. Like I said, I don't know why it's not letting me pack it, because I'd say that is officially on. But anyway, these things happen in the end. I had to plonk a goddamn horse or vehicle on there, because I wasn't sure. I needed to know these things. Fits like a glove. I really do like the look of the P16 with its big, fat, meaty tyres. I went and put the studded monster ones on this P16 in the end as well. I think I originally tried it with them like JB version of the custom muds, and it didn't make any difference. They both got stuck on about the same part of the hill, so yeah, tyre grip wasn't really the issue. Yeah, the loaf slots in there like a beauty. That's definitely what she said. Sort of between the back of the Derry and the sleeper cab of the wrecker. And we're good to go. I've got the Derry winch, like pulling it into the back of the wrecker because, yeah, well, we'll get to this soon, but if I drive forward now, the Derry will just try and roll off the back, or at least it'll attempt it. But just bear that in mind. So yeah, by now I think I've just about done every different way that I could rescue it. What did we? Pulled it up with just the winch, pulled it up with the crane, pulled it up with the rotator. Gave it a go with the P16. Well, I did actually get it up in the end with the P16. Yeah, went down the river. And overall, I mean, the wrecker, I think, passed every single one. Did have a few times where I tipped, but it is what it is. I could certainly, yeah, I could certainly make each way happen without a tip involved. And for the most part, I mean, I'm kind of driving normally now. I still think this is a pretty reasonable speed. Perhaps not on a single lane icy road, but these things happen. And yeah, this thing's motoring along pretty nicely. A free floating loaf on there. Is it not skidding around or anything? See, this is why it'd be nice if there was more various, like, guys that have modded this have done like studded tyres. Yeah, they're just like, because on stuff like this, nothing else will work other than studded. Everything else is like you're just skating around anyway, so it'd sort of be pretty cool if you could add studded on various different treads of tyres, and then, you know, it'll sort of mix them up a bit. But yeah, the mods have definitely helped improve the playability of this game, sort of the longevity of it. Anyway, my loaf was almost slipping off, but as I started steering up here, look, he's just wiggling his way back on. I mean, what a goddamn horse of a vehicle. It's one thing to know how to jiggle, but it's a whole other thing to know when to jiggle. See, look, he looks like he's got fog-like teeth. It's a loaf eat loaf world, and I've got bigger loaves. It's random. It reminded when I just said it's one thing to know to jiggle or whatever, but it's a different story to know when to jiggle. Yeah, there was some pretty clever guy back in like the 20s or 30s or something. I can't remember his name, but he was some pretty genius scientist guy. Anyway, Henry Ford, who obviously Ford Motor Company, had a car plant going. I think it was a big generator he had in the factory. I assume to start running like the assembly line. And anyway, the generator was broke, it kept messing around, he was having people in to try and fix it, and no one could fix it. So in the end he called this guy, I think it was Carl something, but I can't remember. Anyway, he came in, he kind of listened around the generator, and was kind of rubbing his chin and everything, and then yeah, he drew a chalk X mark on the machinery and said, drill there, drill an inch in, and that'll fix it. So they were kind of like, oh, well, okay. So they got a drill, drilled an inch in, fired the machine up, and it worked just fine. So Henry Ford kind of said, yeah, okay, thanks, send me the bill. When he sent him the bill, he sent him a bill for 10 grand, which back in the 20s odd or whatever, was a lot of money. Henry Ford went a bit mad, so he said, this is a ridiculous price, I want an itemised bill to tell me how you came to 10 grand. And the guy sent him a bill saying, chalk X mark, $1, knowing where to put the chalk X mark, $9,999. And he's right. You can put a chalk mark where you like, but if you don't know where to put it, it don't mean shit. You see? You get a goddamn horse or a vehicle. Anyone can get a horse, but you can't just make it a loaf. I tried to kill the tree, if you're watching, and yeah. I was like, oh no, speak to me loaf, but you see, again, he's just a goddamn professional. He's back on his wheels, and he's good to go. It wasn't letting me attach the winch, because I think the bumper of the Derry was overhanging. Again, 9 million winch points later, I'm sure they made a song about that. There's 9 million winch points in this game, or something. Ha, see? Right, the Derry tried to roll off. What it wasn't prepared for was my goddamn horse. That has got me covered, winch attached. Take that, Derry. Try and bullshit a bullshitter. So yeah, we're on our way back to the garage. In the end, I don't drop this truck off because it kind of dawned on me when I was about to drop it off that if I do, I will never have this mission again on this playthrough. I'll have to obviously start another playthrough just to go and try it again. So in the end I was kind of like, well, sod it. I'm probably not going to do every single mission on this second playthrough. Maybe one day, who knows, but obviously I'm going to try and chip away at them on my my first playthrough. I'm just too busy distracted with mods and stuff at the minute. So yeah, there's a square I've got to get it to. That would have been mission done. And now I just want to get the Derry off. And this was what I was saying, right, Derry kept trying to roll off the back of my rollback. Now, it's like, what, now you're the world's stickiest Derry Longhorn, that's what she said, and it won't get off my rollback. It's typical. Well, we've got a solution for that. Oh, wrong button. Showing him the horsepower. Again, I really do just like that the rollback, it just works. It doesn't start struggling halfway through or anything. It's just, yeah. It's generally strong enough that if you start pressing it and you can't move whatever's behind you back, then it'll start moving you forward. Which is better than it just moaning and... I mean, look at the Derry! Like, get off! It's now practically bending its whole arse in the air to try and stay stuck on my rollback. I mean, goddamn, my rollback brings all the Derrys to the yard, but it's getting ridiculous. Job's a good one. Derry delivered, partially smashed, but again, as Lone Wolf delivers, that's not my problem. And right now, I was just like, yeah, I bet the loaf could get up that rollback. I had to say it to myself, this is what happens. My brain challenges me to things, and I was like, oh, well, okay then. We'll see if the loaf can get up that rollback. Just making sure it was fully erect. Pretty important, of course. Didn't want to give the loaf a free meal, an easy time. What I did though, when I drove the loaf forward, I accidentally hit square for, I don't know, whatever muscle memory reflex I was trying to do. Hit square and I recovered the garage, so I sent the loaf back out. As you can see as well, squeezed through the gap like a goddamn professional. Didn't have to go the long way. And yeah, I was feeling pretty confident I could get me loaf up there. Yeah, again, that's definitely what she said. Yes, that's what I needed to see. See, $1 for having a winch. Priceless for knowing where to put that winch. And he's up. Did anybody ever doubt him, really? I certainly didn't. That's why I challenged myself to it. think at some point I tried to switch to the the wrecker as quick as I could and pack vehicle, but it wouldn't let me anyway. And then I packed the vehicle, I believe. Now I'm just seeing how well. Pops off then, but it's all good. He lands, he's ready to go. However, I was curious, I wanted to stick a winch on, see what happens. Give the loaf a little bit of a slapping. Also did it with a rollback though, and then yeah, went for a little drive. So he's going down, he's back. The true mark of a professional. And yeah, as I was in White Valley, like, well, one in Rome. I was actually curious though, because if I was towing the loaf behind me, this thing can struggle to get into like the Jeff Special. But now, because the loaf's floating, fuel saving techniques, yeah, got into high range, got the Jeff Special on the go. Oh no, brace yourself, loaf. Landed. I mean, of course, loaf not only made it back to its wheels, I'm pretty sure it encouraged the heavy wrecker to do the same. Yep. Got myself a roof rack, give it a little fix. Fire up the nuclear engine. Oh no, speak to me, loaf.
Come on, yard. Come on, Johnny 5, come on. Please, come on.
I mean, what a goddamn professional. A showman, really. Johnny Loaf. Johnny Loaf is back in action. Johnny Loaf is so good, even Santa still believes in him. So yeah, fortunately, had a few little points left, managed to did a panic winch to the wrecker, because that was within the rules. And yeah, took one hell of a beating. That's a lot of damage, but a bit of flex seal and we're out of there. Not only is he self-rescuing, but of course, he's bringing the wrecker with him. The Loaf never leaves a man behind. Well, unless I've already crashed the shit out of it, then we do. That's a different story. See? There's just no stopping. Can't keep a good loaf down. I've said it before, and I'll probably say it again. I just wanted to check these two things next to each other. It's, yeah, turns out the P16 is a bit of a massive beast, because the heavy wrecker in its own right ain't small, but when you park it next to this, like, goddamn. Some kind of truck envy going on here. And of course, I had to know, because we're all wondering now, and yes, it turns out the loaf is massive compared to the P16. I mean, look at it, it's probably twice the height. So it's like the TARDIS. You think it's small, but it's actually massive. That's definitely what she said. Just remember, you, the guy she told you not to worry about. And this is an optical illusion now. The loaf is actually really far back, but I didn't want to make my P16 jealous. Last thing I need is an insecure P16. Yeah, that's about it for today. That's enough messing around. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Get yourself a goddamn professional, of course, and a P16 and a heavy wrecker. Yeah, Pluck the stuck truck. Done.